Hey y'all, I'm Ted and this is my rec room. Today we're gonna talk about a little road trip I did recently to Texas with a little pit stop to see a good friend of mine. I did record it like 2 weeks ago, so I have like full facial hair. I have shaved since then. But with that being said, I hope you enjoy the video. Stay tuned and subscribe if you like what you see. See you in a bit.
It is quite the journey.
Wow.
And, it almost
So
feels
pretty.
like, I'm a big RPG guy. It almost feels like an RPG played out over like 5 minutes or 12 minutes. Because your growth is like 1 minute
Here we go.
Here we go.
And literally a minute later.
All right, so where to begin? Well, New York, of course, because that's where I'm from. So this was first off an impulse decision. My girlfriend's family is in Texas, some of them anyway, and we had been trying to go see them for a while, but with coronavirus, and especially its spread to Texas, we were very unsure about getting there. I had never really dealt with a road trip before of that caliber. The most I had done is taken us to Pennsylvania for like a staycation, or not a staycation, but we had like a nice getaway there. And that was like a 3-hour trip. I've never done anything like this on my own before, so part of me was like really up for the challenge, but it just wasn't the right time. We kind of made an impulse decision. I forget why. It was something that they said about like construction being done on the house, and like, you know, the construction was finished, and we were like, oh, let's go surprise them. So don't do this, by the way. Don't go surprise people 24 hours away if you're going to drive there, and if you don't have a good plan, but more on that later. It worked out, so I'm happy about that. But it was certainly a challenge, especially not knowing a lot of things about going on a road trip. For starters, I had a bit of a hangover from the day before. So we left on a Saturday night, and I tried sleeping it off, but I couldn't really. So I was a little groggy most of Saturday, but we planned to leave that night because there'd be no traffic on the roads, and it would be relatively easy to drive at night. I've had mixed experience with driving at night. I've driven at night back from Canada to New York, and some of the roads, one of the highways we went on had like absolutely no street lights, and it was a really daunting thing. So I was actually concerned about that. With this particular itinerary, I just plugged in the destination on Google Maps on the phone, and that was that. And you know, it took me through major highways, most all of which were lighted, and that really wasn't a major issue for most of it. So from 11:30 at night Saturday until I'd say probably like 5 a.m. on Sunday morning, it was smooth sailing. I didn't have many issues. I stopped for gas at one point. There was a 24-hour gas station off one of the highways, I think like maybe in New Jersey. So that was fine. Like there was no major issue there. Problem was, once we had crossed Pennsylvania, I don't think we went through Delaware, but somehow we ended up going through Delaware on the way back. I remember distinctly, you know, I think we went through New Jersey and then Pennsylvania and then through West Virginia. And when we got into West Virginia, it was really cool because it's like really elevated. It's very mountainy. This is where you're gonna drive through a certain mountain territory. I'm not really sure. But at nighttime, it was crazy because first off, you got bugs flying into the windshield because they're attracted to your light. And you know, when a bug flies into your windshield and you try and use the wipers, you try and use the water in the wipers, it doesn't get the bug off, it just splatters them everywhere. So you got dead bugs on your windshield. I don't know if you've ever seen Men in Black in the beginning when it goes through the perspective of a mosquito and then it just slams into the to the dashboard. It's the same thing except like times 50. So that was number one. But number two was, this was very interesting. There was a huge fog in the mountains in West Virginia, and it was so thick that I couldn't see in front of the car more than I'd say 10 feet, and it just kept getting thicker and thicker. There wasn't really like any huge rain at any point during that time, but it got so bad that I had to turn the defroster up to get the the fog off of the windshield, and because like I had been using cool air to like keep the car cool and like to keep me kind of like awake, the hot air that you need to use when you have the defroster on was making my eyes water so much. And somehow like I got through the fog and it was fine, and we wound up at a rest area in West Virginia, and I was like, oh, I'll only sleep for like 20 minutes. Closed my eyes, knocked out for 2 hours, but we had the doors locked and my girlfriend was up, and she was taking care of me during that time. So that was crazy, but that had to be done. I was happy to find out that like it was relatively safe falling asleep at a rest area in your car. And it wasn't, I was worried maybe I wouldn't be comfortable. There was no problems. I just, pushed the chair back, and that was that.
Babe's been sleeping for around, like, it's been like a 2 hour, right?
Yeah.
Like around 2 hours.
I feel like a new man.
No, you don't. You're just saying how you're groggy.
Wow.
We're taking a walk, trying to wake him up because we're like on a tight timeline. So
The fog was crazy.
I know. It was really foggy driving up here. I didn't take a video of that though.
JJ.
Wild and wonderful.
Nose is itchy. So I wake up and it's like 9 o'clock now. Unfortunately, my friend is expecting me by 11 a.m. So I woke up at 9. I didn't tell him until like 11 a.m. But we hit the road. We kept going, and we made it to my friend's house by, I'd say, like 3 p.m. And you wondering who that friend is? Well, it's none other than Alex from Turbo Zone. That's right, we drove through Kentucky. Here's a picture of me and Alex when we got to hang out. All right, so first things first about Kentucky. I had no interpretation for anything Kentucky other than like Breonna Taylor and Mitch McConnell. But I don't know anything about the terrain. So for all I knew, it might as well have been like hick territory and like farms. But that really wasn't the case. It was actually kind of like an extension of the mountain terrain from West Virginia. I was really surprised by that. And when I stopped to see Alex and we hung out for a bit, he took me to the Capitol in Frankfurt, and I learned a lot about the area there. I got to see the Capitol building. I got to see a lot of like the kind of cool built suburban area, urban-ish. And it was really cool to see. There's like a lot of good community stuff going on there. There's like a river, and they have like this river rafting thing that they do. I don't know the full details, but they're pretty well developed. And it was nice to see that. It was actually nice to see even in like the windows of like one of the cafes that they were pretty politically conscious. They had like something about Breonna Taylor and Black Lives Matter in the window. So I was happy to see like that it wasn't just like blind Republican territory, which might have been my impression, but it was nice. It was nice to learn something about like a neighboring state. Kentucky's actually not that far away. The reason I contacted Alex was first off because I never met him, so that was really cool to get to meet him. But also it was a nice like resting spot to go like halfway to Texas. Now, thing is, I initially planned it as like, oh, I'm gonna go there, we'll hang out for a bit and I'll rest for a bit. But because I had rested earlier in the day, when we got there, we just hung out the whole time. I didn't rest at all. Like I closed my eyes for maybe like 20 minutes while Chantal played Beat Saber in VR on the PSVR. But we had a certain timing to make, so like we wanted to adhere to that. So I got to hang out with Alex for a few hours. That was great. I'm so thankful. He took me around town and showed me the area, and we got to like do what friends do like in person. So that was really cool. Cheers to you, Alex, man. That's dope of you to host us, and especially on such short notice too. I know I was like 2 nights before, hey, can I come over? Sure. I guess we'll have some majority. But anyways, he's got a vlog on his channel that we did together. You can go check it out. I'll have a link in the top right corner. I never get this right. Is this, when this records, is it gonna invert? It's one of these corners, but you'll know when you see the video. So awesome. We'll also have some on the button mappers that we did together, so you can check that out too.
I missed the welcome to the Kentucky sign because I was not prepared. But we are in Kentucky now.
It feels like it.
Woo!
This feels like Kentucky.
Yeah.
You see like water towers and smokestacks.
All right. We're here. It looks the same as West Virginia so far.
There's hints of West Virginia mountain. Where was I? Kentucky. That's where I was. Duh. I wanted to do this video sooner than later because I knew I'd start forgetting things. This is actually scheduled for like 2 weeks later than this is being recorded. So take that, you know, Governor Cuomo with your 2-week quarantine mandate. Okay, so even though I didn't like sleep in Kentucky, it was nice to just like get out of the car and like rest for a bit and, you know, like re-nourish, like eat some good food. On the highway, I guess we had packed some stuff, but there's a lot of like just fast food. Good luck finding like good food. That's actually one thing I learned was like, especially for like people who do this for a living, like truckers and stuff, I commend you because you guys are doing hard work, especially with the lack of like non-GMO, you know, additive food out there on the road. So, you know, big ups. We left from Kentucky and there were 3 major states to go through: Tennessee, Arkansas, and then into Texas. Now, Tennessee, going through it the first time, I hated this. This was awful. Maybe it was because of the time. It was like 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. But this is where it started to get more city-like. And at nighttime in Tennessee, those drivers suck. I almost got hit a couple times. Some people not showing their signals. People are going super fast. Now, most of the ways I was driving like a relative 70 or 80 miles per hour, so it wasn't like a big deal. But even that was slow in Tennessee. It was crazy to me. And for whatever reason, the route that we took through Tennessee was just so long. I had like a very negative experience here with the drivers, first off. Second off, because we were coming out of Kentucky, we didn't get the welcome sign. Every state gives you a welcome sign. Welcome to New Jersey, home of the plains, or like whatever it is. So we didn't see that for Tennessee, so we immediately didn't feel welcome. So that was first off. Second was, you know, the drivers were not good in Tennessee. And it was just so like big and boring. Now I had a newfound appreciation for it on the way back, but I'll get into that. So we got through most of Tennessee, and like the second we got into Arkansas, I just had to close my eyes again. I was so tired. And Arkansas is another big one. It's a big kind of empty area, it's, to be honest, it's not the least interesting state that we drove through. I would have to hand that to New Jersey on the way back. It was so boring. But Arkansas was trucker territory. So, you know, I remember distinctly, I was getting really tired driving through Arkansas like early in the morning too. And maybe it's just because I was on like that stretch and I had only rested at the rest area. I didn't get like a full night's sleep. So like on the way up, we didn't like rent any hotels or anything like that. That was that. And, you know, I stopped at the rest area the first part in Arkansas, but then I was getting so tired on the road again that I literally pulled into a trucker stop. I didn't even pull into like a regular gas station stop. And at the trucker stop, I closed my eyes for like 20 minutes. And then I think I did the same thing at like a diner gas station. And Chantal was telling me people were walking by and looking at me like, but they didn't say anything. They just kept walking. And so that was that. I had to just stop plenty of times. But we did eventually make it into Texas. Once I made it into Texas, the roads were weird, you know, like, because they have some highways that like stack on top of each other. I wasn't used to that. I think it was like through Dallas or something. And, you know, I was getting ready to just like kind of get there, close my eyes, and just rest. So we survived through Texas. Texas was at least more interesting than Arkansas. and we surprised, her family members, and it was really nice. We didn't make it by the time we wanted, but so it was like kind of scattered, everyone coming into the house throughout the day, but nobody expected us. We got to the door and they were like, "Hello? Like, what are you doing here?" Like, so that was fun.
So we're finally in Texas. It was a very long trip.
Yeah.
We're tired.
Yes.
It's like 9 a.m. in New York, and it's a Monday, so I'm working from the car.
Sorry.
But it's fine. It's fine. So welcome to Texas Sign. We made it! Yay!
And then we spent like a week there. On the way back, we rented a motel in Tennessee, because that was like the halfway point. And this time I knew what I was doing. I left in the morning on a Sunday, and we got through Texas, Arkansas, and a good portion of Tennessee, and stayed in Knoxville. A couple things I realized on the way back was that a lot of people at the places I was stopping, now we packed food for the way there. We didn't pack food for the way back, so I had to go into a lot of these gas stations, etc., to get food. A lot of clerks behind the counter weren't wearing masks. That was a really interesting noticing. Also, like, people going into the stores weren't wearing masks. And considering that these are stops that like people go through, like, from all ranges of the US, that is kind of a concern that for COVID spreading. I don't know, it's just something to be mindful of and careful of. Fortunately, like, we're all good. We haven't gotten tested, but there's no signs yet. We're just being very careful. We're quarantining and everything. But it's been a few days at this point. So we get to Tennessee, we get to the hotel. Hotel's nice. I close my eyes and sleep for like 12 hours or so. Get up in the morning. It's the same routine. Leave from Tennessee. Tennessee's huge, by the way. Here's a really interesting landmark that I saw on the way back. It's called the Music Highway. I guess I wasn't being as mindful of the sign names of like places on the way down. But obviously Tennessee is known for like Nashville, Tennessee. I think Nashville's home of Elvis, and that's why like the highways, the Music Highway, Elvis is like the king of, what is it, pop? So like, I don't know. On the way back though, I was kind of honoring it by playing music. A lot of the way down, I actually just played the Button Mappers podcast from YouTube, and that kept me going. We have 55 podcasts, etc., like in one playlist, each of which is like anywhere between 30 minutes and 2 hours. A lot of great content to pick from, but after a while, like, sometimes you just need music, so I had some like playlists going and stuff, and it was nice. We get through Tennessee. It took a while. I think it took like 6 hours. Like, why is Tennessee so large, like, and hard to get through? I don't know, but it's what it was. This time we ended up going through Virginia and then West Virginia. Also, a funny note, there was a place called Friendsville. I think that was probably the MVP, or like the the best name for a town. I was cracking up over that. And then there was like a town in Maryland. That's the state I was forgetting that we crossed through on the way down. I liked Maryland because that's when it started getting really nature-y. Maryland, I think, has an area called Bethesda, and I was cracking up over that. I was calling Spencer, like, yo, this town in Maryland, Bethesda, like, I guess they got all the, great games, but anyways.
It's kind of hard to see it because of the, okay, see it.
Here we come.
Here we come.
Welcome to
The Mississippi River.
Arkansas.
Oh, we're in Arkansas?
Yeah.
Yay!
The natural state.
Woo! Natural state. Okay.
Imagine to see a lot of nudists.
Nudist?
It's a natural state.
Okay.
So I was in Maryland. There I was. And we go through Delaware. I think that's when the tolls started hitting. We had to go like cross some bridges and stuff, and get through New Jersey. I started like getting tired, but like that's when you need to really kick it into overdrive and keep going. and I somehow managed to do that, and that was good. And we made it home, by like midnight or 1 a.m. So it ended up being like a 12, 13 hour drive on the next day, which was Monday. And that was pretty much the road trip. That was huge. I actually didn't do much in Dallas. It was mostly just a family trip. Not Dallas, just Texas. We went through Dallas. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good to get out. It was good to have like my own vacation. It was good to meet Alex. That was really that's probably a highlight for the summer. Alex is my boy. We've been going back for a while, like making content on YouTube. So to get to finally interact face to face was really cool. It sucks the conditions were like during COVID time. Any other time I probably would have just flew. But this was valuable, I think, especially because you get to see the world and the states that you live in and the people of those states and the towns of those states, and you get to learn a bit. It's not something that you get necessarily when you just fly somewhere. For that reason, I really liked doing it, and I've got some tips for you. So with that being said, let's get to some like advice and suggestions and even like lessons I learned that maybe you can take away if you ever want to do like a long road trip. All right. My first suggestion for you is to really have a baseline for how much stamina you have as a driver. Earlier this year, we went to the French Manor in Pennsylvania, which was our like getaway. It was really nice, but it was actually the longest I had driven single-handedly at any point. I drove like 3 hours there, we stayed a couple of days, and I drove 3 hours back. That wasn't a problem. I didn't know up to that point, because the most I had probably driven was like anywhere between 1 and 2 hours, I would say. I'm used to like getting on a train and going a long way, or like I don't think we've done it with a bus, but never just driving by myself. So like, I think I would understand what you are capable of doing and then go from there. It's important to note that you can stop at a bunch of places to rest. There are tons of rest areas, usually spaced out by every like 50 miles or so. So anywhere between 50 and 100 really. And those are okay places to close your eyes, especially if you have somebody else in the car with you. So, I was able to take that knowledge that I could do a 3-hour road trip and apply it knowing that I could like stop halfway, like at a 12-hour mark and keep going. It would be a lot more, but I'm a born worker. So like, that kind of thing is easy to me. Which brings me to my next suggestion, which is to have some kind of a plan, even if it's not perfect. And I would say have a plan first off, because like it's cool to just explore and go places, etc. Like I think you can do that, but like if you don't know like where you're going, you're not going to stumble on like those interesting things that you wanted to discover either. I think it's really important to like have that goal in the back of your head too, because like that way you can always look at like the clock and say like, okay, I have this much time left. Oh, I'm halfway there. I'm a quarter of the way there. It can actually be really mentally taxing if you continue to think that way throughout the duration of the trip. Like, oh my gosh, I have 800 miles left, But it's also a point of encouragement too. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think knowing those things really helps you. Now, you may not even want to look at it. Like I turned the LED off on the phone a lot of times when I was on those highway stretches where it said like, you must drive for 200 miles. Like, Jesus, save me. But, just rest assured you will reach your destination. And, just stay awake through it. I was really surprised. I thought I'd need more coffee. I only ended up drinking like either 1 or 2 cups per day that I was driving, which I'm doing on a normal day anyway. So like that was fascinating. But I think there's something calming about driving too. And especially like if you're coming from the East Coast, or especially like states like New York or, I guess New Jersey too. If you're coming out of city area, you know what it's like when streets are crowded or like highways are crowded and you're sitting there like forever in highway traffic. That's not happening on the highway. Like there's huge portions of road for you to just cruise. I barely stopped on the highway unless it was for gas. There were some road work sections, but there's no real rush hour once you get out of, I'd say like Pennsylvania. Now, granted, there might have been in Tennessee or Texas, but you know, throughout those I guess the mid states, that was not an issue. It was steady, smooth sailing. Here's actually a funny sub story about that. I was worried about speeding, and you know, like will we get pulled over? I don't want to get pulled over. We're seeing all this stuff in the news about like, you know, cops on highways, etc. So like, you know, there's the concern there. That didn't happen, first off. I barely saw any cops, and if there were any, they were primarily there for abandoned vehicles on the road. I didn't see anyone get pulled over. And another funny story was there was actually a lookalike cop car. So like I was like trying very clearly to go like the speed limit, and this guy was going exactly the speed limit too. So I was like kind of concerned about pulling up to him, and it ended up being just like some electric car. And once I saw that, I was like, oh, forget it. Like, vroom, vroom. But the point that I wanted to make was that in Virginia, there's actually signs, and there's multiple signs that say speed limit enforced by aircraft. And so I was like, well, what are they doing? Are they scanning every person that goes above the speed limit and then giving them a ticket? So we saw that sign multiple times, and after that I was like, yo, Chantal, can you look up what this means? Apparently, those signs have been in place for a while, but that rule has not been enforced. It's actually more expensive to remove those signs, so they just leave them there on the highway. Funny sub story, but that's another thing I would probably advise you is like, while you can be concerned and have your concerns, just, you know, be risky too. Be willing to take that risk and that challenge. You know, I remember a friend asking me if I want to go on a road trip when I was like graduating high school, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, I've never done it. I'm not ready for it. And that was that. But like, this is a time in my life where I was like, yeah, let's do it. I've been stuck in this apartment for like, you know, since quarantine started, and you know, I wanted some kind of adventure. So with a road trip, I would say like, don't shy away from it. There are certain benefits to it, especially during the time of coronavirus, with like the airplanes being so suspect about like who's protecting who from COVID. Are the airlines actually on your side? Are they trying to protect you? Or are they just trying to do their jobs? And what is their job? Is their job to enforce like, you know, space seating, or is it just to, you know, get as many people on the flight as possible because they don't have you know, profits right now, so they're trying to encourage travel. I think the road trip was the safest way to go personally, because you're in control of your variables. You can wear your mask. You can every time I went to a gas station, I actually put on a latex glove before I touched the pump, and I'd use the pump to hit the, you know, the gas icon, and then I'd throw the glove away after. And so, like, that's a way that you can protect yourself during a road trip. On an airplane, you don't have control over those factors. You are all breathing the same air in that airplane, and somebody might have their mask off and be breathing coronavirus particles into the air. So that's why I personally wouldn't fly until like a vaccine's out. And numbers are reduced in the United States. Our numbers are disgusting for coronavirus. Which leads me to, I don't know if this is my last point, but it's certainly a point that I want to make. And, you know, I may piss some people off in the comments about this, even just my stance that I wear a mask when I go out in public. Do I really care that I offend you? No, I don't. My name's Majority. I was born with a mask. I don't know what else to say besides that. My suggestion is not for you. Like, you're beyond my advice. Like, you will believe what you want to believe about the mask. And I can reference you to articles from the CDC that show, you know, coronavirus data and what's good practice and what's not. But that's not what I'm here to do. I'm just here to really, document what I advise. As somebody who wears a mask out in public to protect others and myself, because the mask is proven to protect both ways, to varying degrees, of course. It's not 100%, but it does work, and I feel better wearing it. You will run into a lot of people who don't wear masks if you go into the country. And you're not going to save everyone, and you're not going to convince everyone. Like I said, there were multiple people behind registers that didn't have face masks on at all. On a store where there's a sign that says, you must wear a face mask in order to enter this establishment. And then you have multiple people coming into the said establishment without proper face mask. So they're not enforcing it. Customers don't care. They're coming in regardless. Don't go trying to change anyone's mind. The last thing you need is to get into a conflict with somebody else. Just worry about yourself for the time being. Get your coffee, pay the cashier, be nice, and move on. That's it. If somebody wants to start something with you, it's not going to happen, first off. I sincerely doubt, you're going to run into somebody who's not wearing a mask, who's going to go freaking out in public. It's normal to see people with masks on. At this point, people just kind of see it as, majority-wise anyway, as a choice. I disagree with that notion. I think it's very entitled and misinformed, but that's the reality of the states right now and how they perceive the pandemic. Your purpose is not to go on a road trip changing people's minds, unless that's something crazy that you're going to do. Your purpose is to go to said destination and be as safe as possible. So do what you got to do, but do not engage. That's my key tip for you, right? But just worry about number one. That's it. Was there anything else that I wanted to say? No, I had a great time. It was nice to just do something and go on an adventure. And now I've got kind of a mental stamp book of states that I've been through and seen a little bit of. I'd be really interested to check out parts of Tennessee now. On the way back, it was actually really cool. West Virginia, oh gosh, it was so cool being up in the mountains there. I really liked that. Arkansas was interesting. I learned, I saw signs for Little Rock. I know about the Little Rock 9 in Arkansas. And it really wasn't that bad of a state. Another thing too is Texas. I know maybe you're like me and you have if you're not from Texas or kind of that region, you may have a perceived notion of what a Texan is like, but they actually have things really under control when it comes to, the social understanding of the pandemic and handling things. I was really taken aback. First off, that sanitizer is widespread, and when you go into establishments, they're huge. They're just there's so much space. Everyone is wearing masks. It's not even like New York where it's 50-50. In Texas, it was really everyone had a mask on. Some people weren't wearing it, right? For granted, but they had masks. They were taking it serious. And everyone was going about their business. Everyone minded themselves. This wasn't no hick area where people were just, yeehaw. That was not the Texas of today. And I was really happy to see that. It was a really nice place to be. I'd like to learn more about it. It's not my first time there, but I was really impressed, let's just say. And even Walmarts right now have changed their policy, nationally about mask wearing, where it's you have the choice because they're trying to avoid conflict. In Texas, the districts that have more than 20 coronavirus cases, this is what somebody was telling me, they actually still require you to wear the mask. So they're doing their thing. They've got it under control in their own way. I'm happy to hear it. I know the numbers are not great, but I'm happy to see people out there trying. I can't speak for all parts of Texas. I can only speak for the parts that I went through. But I liked it there, and it was nice. I guess that's my takeaway is you cannot judge a place if you haven't been there. You don't know. It's not to say you have to go everywhere, but because you don't. And, you know, if you hear somewhere is dangerous, maybe you don't want to go there, etc. Like, I know Texas has an open firearm policy, open carry policy on guns, and that's actually kind of terrifying in a way. But like, even going there, I didn't really see that. That wasn't an issue. And, you know, that's another thing is like, somebody might say like, oh, you're crazy to go to Texas when coronavirus is so high out there. Well, we took our precautions. We were very careful. We knew our variables and we were comfortable with them. You need to be comfortable with the variables wherever you're going. You know, even if you're going to Florida, if you're just going to stay with family, you're not going out to bars, you're not engaging in high risk behaviors, and you know the people you're staying with are not, then go for it. You know, I say like, and especially, maybe this video is going to release in September, so maybe it's not prime time, but like I said, you know, be willing to take the risks, but also assess those variables, I guess. That would be my takeaway. But I got a lot to say on it. It was a huge trip. It's still going in the back of my mind. I was like dreaming about driving last night before I went to sleep. Before I went to sleep, I was dreaming about it. It was awful. But I'm happy to be home. I'm happy to be back in the video editing, recording process, and I hope you enjoy the video. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you have any questions about my road trip. If you have any anything you want to know, any suggestions, I'll be happy to respond to you. With that being said, also in the comments, if you've been on any great road trips, let me know. You know, how far did you drive? How far could you make it? How good was your stamina? Have you played F-Zero lately? All right, y'all. Cheers. I will catch you later in another video. Rested, because I won't have been driving for 24 hours straight. I didn't drive for 24 hours straight. I drove for like 2 days in a row. But peace, y'all. Tia.